It was the morning of our planned family getaway, and when I reached the airport, it was deserted, no sign of anyone. I dialed my sister, and her response hit like a slap. "This trip's going to be fantastic without you, loser." A week later, she was pleading for my help. "Greetings, everyone. This is a story of deception, retribution, and the moment my self-absorbed sister learned she'd messed with the wrong person. Let me introduce the main characters. I'm Ethan, a single dad to my incredible 10-year-old son, Noah. Noah has cerebral palsy, so he uses a wheelchair and requires extra attention. Despite his challenges, he's the most joyful, brilliant kid I know. Then there's my sister, Emma. Emma's the type who always gets her way, whether she's earned it or not. She was raised, pampered, cherished, and never held accountable for her actions. She has 2 daughters, whom she calls her perfect darlings, and believes the universe should orbit around them. The last time we spoke before this chaos, she insulted my son at our family's holiday gathering. Noah received more gifts than her daughters, not because he demanded them, but because our relatives wanted to brighten his day. Emma couldn't stand it. At dinner, she grumbled about the unfairness, claiming Noah was getting special treatment and her girls deserved better. Then, in front of everyone, she locked eyes with me and said, "Maybe if he wasn't such a weight on everyone, people wouldn't feel so sorry for him." That was my breaking point. I cut her off entirely. We didn't speak for months. The only reason I didn't go fully no contact was that I was still supporting our parents financially, and some of that support indirectly reached her. Despite everything, I didn't want my nieces to suffer because of their mother's behavior. Out of the blue, Emma called. She apologized, admitting she'd been terrible and wanted to make amends. As a gesture of goodwill, she said she'd organized a family vacation and already paid for my ticket. She told our parents, her husband, and everyone else that this was her big move to repair things. I was wary, but I wanted to believe she'd changed. Noah was overjoyed. Too young to fully understand her past actions, he knew she was family, and that meant something to him. I convinced myself she might have matured. So on the day of the trip, I went through the exhausting process of preparing Noah, packing his essentials, and heading to the airport. Getting Noah through an airport is tough. He can't walk, and while I'm used to managing his wheelchair, airports are chaotic. Crowds, security, luggage, it's a lot, but I told myself it'd be worth it. We got to the airport and looked around. No Emma, no family, no calls, no messages. My stomach dropped. I tried calling her, no response. I called again, voicemail. Then a text came through. "This vacation will be perfect without you, loser." Followed by another, "I'll cover the taxi with the cash you sent me. LOL. I stood there, clutching my phone, rage coursing through me. Noah saw my expression and asked, "She fooled us, didn't she?" I didn't know how to respond. I was livid, but more than that, I was crushed, not for myself, but for Noah. He'd been so excited, and now he was heartbroken. We took a cab home, and Noah sat silently, arms folded, seething. "I hate Aunt Emma," he finally said. I couldn't blame him, but I wasn't going to let her get away with this. If she thought she could humiliate me and walk away unscathed, she was mistaken. I went straight to my parents. My dad listened to the story, let out a long breath, and said, "If she wants to play dirty, let's play." That's when he sparked an idea, a brilliant, straightforward, and perfectly executed plan. Emma thought she'd return to her charmed life after a week of sun-soaked fun. She had no clue what was waiting for her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Noah's disappointed face and Emma's cruel texts. She deceived her own brother and her nephew with a disability for a petty laugh. The next morning, I went to my parents' house. My dad was waiting, sipping his coffee like he'd anticipated my visit. My mom, though, looked uneasy. She despised conflict, but admitted this was a new low for Emma. Dad leaned back and said, "So you want to teach her a lesson?" I didn't respond right away. I didn't want vengeance just for the sake of it. I wanted Emma to learn that actions have consequences, that she couldn't treat people horribly and expect no fallout. Dad grinned and said, "I've got just the thing." His plan. Ingenious, simple, and entirely above board. Here's the deal. Emma and her husband, Ryan, rented their apartment. They didn't own it. Their landlord, a close friend of my dad's named Mike, who wasn't fond of Emma's attitude. Dad called Mike that morning, explained the situation, and just like that, we had our strategy. Emma and Ryan were awful tenants, always late on rent, throwing loud parties, racking up neighbor complaints. Their lease was month to month, and Mike had been itching to evict them but hadn't acted. Until now. That afternoon, Mike posted an eviction notice on their door, effective immediately. They had 7 days to move out. And guess what? Emma and Ryan were on vacation for 8 days. When they returned, they'd be locked out of their home. But that wasn't all. My dad, ever the helpful guy, offered to clear out their apartment while they were gone. After all, Mike needed it empty for the next tenant. Since Emma and Ryan had rushed off, they hadn't secured anything valuable, a huge mistake. Over the next few days, we packed up their entire apartment. Clothes, furniture, kitchen items, everything. We rented a storage unit in Ryan's name, using details my dad had from a previous favor, and moved it all there. We even paid for the first month. By the end, their apartment was pristine, empty, ready for new occupants. Noah, by the way, was thrilled. He's not usually one for petty revenge, but he said, "I hope Aunt Emma cries." I did too. Now we just had to wait. 7 days passed, one left. The night before Emma's return, I sat in my living room, sipping a drink, knowing her world was about to collapse. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about teaching her a lesson she'd never forget. Noah was still upset, but when I told him Aunt Emma was in for a surprise, he grinned. "She deserves it," he said. For once, I didn't tell him to be the bigger person. The next morning, Mike called. "Want to be here when she gets back?" I smirked. "Wouldn't miss it." Emma and Ryan's flight landed around noon. I pictured them stepping off, tanned and relaxed, expecting to head home and unwind. Instead, they found an eviction notice on their door. Their key didn't work, no way in, and their belongings gone. Within minutes, my phone lit up. I ignored it, then she called my parents, no one answered. A text followed. "What did you do?" I grinned and replied, "This vacation will be perfect without you, loser." She called again, and this time I picked up. Before she could yell, I said, "You left me and Noah at the airport, now you know how it feels." She lost it, screaming, cursing, threatening to call the cops. "You stole our stuff," she shrieked. I calmly replied, "No, it's all in a storage unit in Ryan's name, paid for a month. Here's the address." Then I hung up. I wish I could have seen her face. It took them hours to get a locksmith, confirm they were evicted, and drag themselves to the storage unit. That evening, Emma showed up at my door. I didn't need to open it to hear her yell, "You destroyed my life. You had no right." I texted my mom, "Are you mad at me?" She replied, "No, your dad and I are watching a movie." I opened the door. Emma stood there, red-eyed, disheveled, a wreck. Ryan stood behind her, looking drained. I let her rant, let her throw her fit. Then I said, "Noah wants an apology." That stopped her cold. She hated apologizing, but she knew she had no cards left. She muttered, "I'm sorry, Noah." From the couch, Noah yelled, "Say it like you mean it." I nearly burst out laughing. In the end, they had to stay with Ryan's parents. Their dream vacation ended with them homeless, humiliated, and powerless. And me? I slept like a king that night. You'd think after losing their home and dignity, Emma would have learned something, maybe humility or accountability. Nope. Instead, she did what she always does, made it someone else's problem. After realizing their apartment was gone and their stuff was in storage, Emma and Ryan had to beg Ryan's parents, Claire and David, for a place to stay. Let me tell you about Claire and David. They don't tolerate nonsense and never liked Emma. They tolerated her because she was their son's wife, but they kept her at arm's length. They saw her as entitled, spoiled, and self-centered. Now they were stuck living with her, and within 2 days they were regretting it. Emma acted like she owned their house, complaining about the meals, leaving dishes everywhere, treating their bathroom like a spa. Claire, who kept a spotless home, was fuming. Ryan, ever the pushover, just let it slide. On day 3, Claire called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Ethan, you need to fix this," she said. I laughed. "Fix what?" she sighed. "You got Emma and Ryan evicted, and now they're here with nowhere to go. They can't stay forever." This was rich. "You know I didn't evict them," I said. "They were terrible tenants." Mike was already planning to kick them out. I just nudged him along. Claire didn't like that. "You're being unfair," she snapped. I couldn't help but laugh. "Unfair? Unfair is tricking your disabled nephew into going to the airport for a fake trip just to humiliate me. If you're worried about fairness, talk to your daughter-in-law." She hung up. Hours later, Emma called. "Ethan, we need help," she said. I put her on speaker so Noah could hear. "Oh, now you need help," I said. She ignored my tone. "Claire and David won't let us stay much longer. Mom and Dad won't help. We're out of options." I shrugged. "Sounds like your problem." She got desperate. "Please, Ethan, we have nowhere to go," I replied. "Maybe don't burn every bridge you have." She tried crying, didn't work. She tried guilt, didn't work. Finally, she snapped. "You're loving this, aren't you?" I paused. "Yep." Then I hit her with the final blow. "I considered letting you stay here, but Noah said no." The sound she made was pure fury, and that ended the call. Claire and David had had enough. My parents stood firm. And me, I slept like a dream. I thought that was the end of it. Emma had burned all her bridges and Ryan's parents were done. But Emma wasn't finished. The next morning, I woke to loud banging on my door at 6:30 a.m. Noah was still asleep, so I quietly checked the peephole. It was Ryan, alone, sweating, looking miserable. I opened the door just enough to talk. "What are you doing here?" Ryan exhaled heavily. "Ethan, I need your help. It's about Emma." I hadn't expected this. I stepped outside, closing the door to keep Noah asleep. "What's going on?" Ryan ran a hand through his hair, looking more stressed than ever. "She lost it last night, screamed at my parents, called them awful for not helping family. My mom told her to pack up and leave by morning." I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, and," he sighed, "and Emma called the police." I nearly choked. "She did what?" Ryan nodded. "She told them my parents were abandoning their grandkids, making them homeless." Unbelievable. "Let me guess," I said. "It didn't go her way." Not even close. When the police arrived, Claire and David had proof they hadn't evicted them. They just asked them to leave and even offered to pay for a hotel. The cops told Emma, "This isn't our issue." Now Emma had completely ruined things with Ryan's parents. Claire told them to get out immediately. "So where's Emma now?" I asked. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Still there, but my parents said she's gone by today. And Ethan," I knew what was coming. "She wants me to beg you to let us stay." I laughed so hard I had to sit down. "You're joking." Ryan looked even more uneasy. "She thinks if I ask, you'll consider it." I shook my head, still chuckling. "Ryan, you're not as bad as Emma, but you're an idiot. Let me ask you this, do you even want to be in this mess anymore?" Ryan looked away. "I don't know, man." Then it clicked. He wasn't just here to beg for Emma, he was thinking about leaving her. I took a deep breath. "Ryan, here's a deal. Get Emma out of my life for good, leave her, take your kids, and go. I'll help you find a place to stay, just you. Emma's on her own." Ryan's eyes widened. "You'd do that?" I nodded. "But only if you're serious." He hesitated, and I could see him wrestling with it. "Think about it, Ryan. Do you want to keep living like this?" He didn't answer right away, but I knew I'd planted a seed. I didn't have to wait long. 20 minutes later, a car screeched into my driveway, and Emma stepped out, looking like a wreck, red-eyed, hair a mess, fueled by rage and exhaustion. She barely reached the porch before exploding. "This is all your fault. You ruined my life." I crossed my arms. "You mean like you ruined Noah's?" Her face twisted. "That was a prank, and you got us evicted, turned everyone against me." I didn't budge. "No, Emma, you did that yourself." She didn't listen. She started sobbing, pointing at Ryan like he was a prisoner. "Ryan told me what you said. You're trying to turn him against me, steal my family?" I raised an eyebrow. "You sure you didn't do that?" Before I could say more, she lunged at me. It happened so fast. One moment she was screaming, the next her hand was in my face. Noah saw it all. For a moment, everything stopped. Even Ryan looked stunned. Then Noah's voice rang out from behind me. "You're an awful person, Aunt Emma." I turned. There was my 10-year-old son glaring at her with more fury than I'd ever seen. Emma blinked. "Noah, honey, you don't understand." "I hate you," he said. I'd never heard him say that to anyone. Emma froze. For the first time I saw it, realization. She'd lost. Not just her home, not just her reputation, everything. She turned to Ryan. "Are you just going to stand there?" And that's when Ryan, weak, spineless Ryan, finally found some courage. He took a deep breath and said, "I think Ethan's right, Emma. I can't do this anymore. You only care about yourself." Her face went blank. "Me and the girls, we're done," he said. "You can stay with my parents if they'll let you, but I'm out." Emma opened her mouth, but nothing came out. No screaming, no fighting, just defeat. She turned and walked away, slow and broken. Ryan meant it. He took his daughters, moved out, and filed for divorce 2 weeks later. My dad helped him find a place, and I kept my promise, helping him settle in. Emma tried crawling back to our parents, but they refused. She ended up couch surfing with friends, learning no one wanted her around. She went from basking in paradise to losing everything. And me and Noah, we were better than ever. For the first time in years, Emma was out of our lives. Months later, life was calm. No Emma, no drama. Just me and Noah enjoying a peaceful existence. Ryan got full custody of the girls since Emma had no stable home. Last I heard, she was still blaming everyone but herself. Then at the grocery store, I saw her. Emma near the checkout yelling at someone, and not just anyone, Mike, the landlord who'd evicted them. I froze. What was this? Then I overheard her. "You promised you'd help me." My mind reeled. Emma and Mike? No way, but before I could process it, Mike saw me, panicked, and bolted. Emma turned, saw me, and ran too. I stood there, stunned. I called my dad. "Did you know Emma and Mike were involved?" The silence said it all. "What?" he finally shouted. I explained what I'd seen. He burst out laughing. Well, son, now we know how she dodged eviction for so long. It clicked. Emma had been involved with Mike. That's why she'd gotten away with late rent and noisy parties. She thought she could charm her way out of trouble. But when it all collapsed, she got evicted anyway. And now, it seemed Mike had dumped her too, judging by their shouting match. It wasn't a pretty breakup. If you enjoyed this story and felt its emotions, please give it a like, share it with others, and follow for more real-life stories and heartfelt experiences. Your support means everything, and it helps us share more stories like this. Thanks for reading, and I'll catch you in the next one.